Sheryl Underwood finally opens up about what really happened with Sharon Osbourne. Can we finally get the truth about what really happened between Sheryl Underwood and Sharon Osbourne? Because for years, fans have been trying to piece together what went wrong between the two former co-hosts of The Talk. What began as visible tension on screen eventually turned into one of the biggest controversies in daytime television. And now, with Sheryl Underwood speaking more openly about how deeply the experience affected her, many people feel like we're finally getting a clearer picture of what really happened behind the scenes. This story is about more than one uncomfortable TV moment. It's not just about two women disagreeing on live television. And it's definitely not just another celebrity feud that people can forget after a few headlines. According to Sheryl Underwood's recent reflections, what happened with Sharon Osbourne left lasting emotional scars. She has suggested that the situation involved stress, emotional pain, isolation, and even workplace bullying. Those are serious claims, and they changed the way many people now look at the fallout. So today, we're breaking down the full story, what led to the now infamous confrontation, what happened after Sharon left The Talk, and why Sheryl's recent comments are hitting such a strong nerve with fans. The backstory behind the feud for anyone who needs a quick refresher: Sheryl Underwood and Sharon Osbourne were both major personalities on the daytime talk show The Talk. The show was built around open discussion, strong opinions, and conversations about everything from celebrity gossip to social issues. Different viewpoints were part of the formula, and viewers were used to seeing debates at the table. But over time, many fans noticed that not all the exchanges felt normal. There often seemed to be an underlying tension between Sheryl and Sharon. Sometimes it showed up in a quick look, a sharp response, or an awkward silence. Other times, it felt much more obvious. While disagreements were expected on a panel show, some viewers felt there was a strain in their relationship that went beyond typical on-air debate. Still, the show continued for years, and both women remained important voices on the panel. Then came 2021, and everything changed. The moment that changed everything, the major turning point, came during a March 2021 episode of The Talk, a moment that quickly became one of the most controversial scenes in daytime TV. At the center of the discussion was Piers Morgan, a longtime friend of Sharon Osbourne. At the time, Piers had come under intense criticism for comments he made about Meghan Markle after her interview with Oprah Winfrey. Many people felt his remarks were dismissive and racially insensitive, especially given the serious issues Meghan had raised. Instead of distancing herself from the controversy, Sharon publicly defended Piers. That decision led to a heated on-air discussion, and Sheryl Underwood directly challenged Sharon during the segment. What followed was emotional, uncomfortable, and instantly unforgettable. Sheryl tried to explain why publicly supporting someone accused of racially insensitive behavior could be harmful. She seemed to approach the conversation carefully, trying to address the seriousness of the issue without escalating things further. But Sharon became visibly upset and defensive. She insisted that supporting Piers Morgan did not make her racist, and repeatedly pushed Sheryl to explain how her support could be interpreted that way. The emotional intensity rose quickly, and viewers could feel the discomfort in real time. For some, it looked like a debate. For others, it looked like Sheryl was being placed in an impossible position, expected to explain racism calmly, while also handling Sharon's emotional reaction on live television. That's why the moment hit so hard. It wasn't just the words being said. It was the pressure, the tension, and the emotional imbalance that made the scene so difficult to watch. The fallout after the clash: once the episode aired, the reaction was immediate. Clips of the confrontation spread all over social media, and viewers everywhere began debating what they had just seen. Some felt Sharon had been unfairly targeted. Others believed her tone toward Sheryl was aggressive and inappropriate. But no matter which side people took, it was clear the moment had gone far beyond a normal talk show disagreement. CBS soon announced that The Talk would go on hiatus, while the network reviewed the incident. That alone signaled that this was not being treated like just another controversial TV segment. As the review unfolded, reports started surfacing that the March 2021 confrontation was not the only issue behind the scenes. Allegations of a toxic work environment began to gain attention, and the conversation shifted from one explosive episode to broader questions about behavior and workplace culture on the set. Not long after that, Sharon Osbourne officially exited The Talk. Her departure was highly publicized, and it left fans with even more questions. Was the on-air confrontation simply the breaking point? Had there been deeper problems behind the scenes for much longer? And how much had all of this affected Sheryl Underwood? For a while, fans were left to speculate. But now, Sheryl's own comments are helping fill in some of those missing pieces. Sheryl says the pain didn't end when the cameras stopped. One of the most powerful things Sheryl Underwood has shared is that the pain did not end when the cameras stopped rolling. While the public saw one tense confrontation, Sheryl has made it clear that what happened behind the scenes was emotionally much heavier than most viewers realized. She has described feeling overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and deeply affected by the entire ordeal. That matters because it tells us the viral clip was not the full story. According to Sheryl, the emotional impact continued long after the public had moved on. From the outside, people may have assumed that once Sharon left the show, the situation was over. But for Sheryl, the emotional aftermath appears to have stayed with her. And that changes how many people now view the controversy. The bullying claims changed the conversation. Perhaps the most serious part of Sheryl Underwood's recent reflections is her suggestion that she experienced emotional distress and bullying while working with Sharon Osbourne. That is a major claim, and it adds a completely different layer to the story. Instead of being just another celebrity feud, Sheryl's comments point to something much deeper, a workplace where she may have felt hurt, unsupported, and emotionally unsafe. She has also implied that Sharon's behavior may have been driven by her own insecurities, a comment that sparked strong reactions online. When people hear the word bullying, everything shifts. It is no longer just about who won an argument or who had the better point during a live segment. It becomes a conversation about power, emotional safety, and what it means to feel targeted in a professional setting. That is why so many fans are taking Sheryl's words seriously. She is not simply revisiting old drama to create headlines. She appears to be speaking from a place of honesty and reflection, and that honesty is making people rethink what they thought they understood. She considered leaving the talk. Another revelation that surprised many fans was Sheryl Underwood admitting that she considered quitting the talk because of the stress. That says a lot. Sheryl was one of the show's most respected voices. She built a reputation for being thoughtful, funny, and calm under pressure. So for someone like her to even think about walking away from such a major platform shows how serious the situation must have felt. This was not just one bad day. This was not just a disagreement that blew over. According to Sheryl's own account, the emotional pressure became so intense that leaving the show entirely became a real possibility. That is heartbreaking. It also makes the entire story feel much more real. When someone says they nearly walked away from something they worked hard to build because of the emotional toll, it tells you the pain was real. And for many fans, that is one of the clearest signs that what happened behind the scenes was more serious than what the public saw. Feeling alone through it all. One of the saddest parts of Sheryl Underwood's recent comments is her admission that she felt isolated and unsupported during the ordeal. That detail has really struck a chord with fans, because it is one thing to go through conflict. It is another thing to go through it while feeling like you do not have enough support around you. Sheryl has made it clear that she has tried to move forward and heal, but she has also acknowledged that the experience still weighs on her. That kind of honesty is powerful. She is not pretending the whole thing is ancient history. She is not acting like the pain simply disappeared. Instead, she is being real about the fact that some experiences stay with you. Some situations leave emotional damage that does not go away just because the headlines fade. That is something many people can relate to, even outside the world of television. A lot of people know what it feels like to go through something difficult at work and still carry the emotional burden long after it ends. That is part of why Sheryl's words are resonating so strongly right now. Fans are rallying around Sheryl since Sheryl Underwood's recent comments started making the rounds. The response from fans has been overwhelmingly supportive. Many people are praising her for her honesty, her courage, and her willingness to finally speak more openly about what the experience cost her emotionally. A lot of viewers have said they always suspected there was more happening behind the scenes than the public knew. Others have gone back to rewatch the original 2021 clip and now see it differently, especially after hearing Sheryl describe the emotional aftermath. For many fans, Sheryl appears to be someone who was trying to handle a highly charged and deeply uncomfortable situation with as much grace as possible. She had to address a conversation about race on live television. She had to stay composed while being challenged in a tense and emotional way. And then, according to her, she had to carry the weight of that experience long after the cameras were off. That is a lot for anyone. So it is not surprising that so many people are standing with her. This story is bigger than celebrity gossip. What makes this story stand out is that it is about more than just entertainment news. Yes, it involves famous names. Yes, it created major headlines. Yes, it gave social media plenty to talk about. But underneath all of that is a much bigger issue. Sheryl Underwood's comments have reignited conversations about workplace bullying, emotional labor, race in professional environments, and what support should look like when someone is dealing with something painful in public. That is why this story still matters years later. Not everyone works on a TV set, but many people know what it feels like to be in a difficult workplace. Many people know what it feels like to be misunderstood, dismissed, or left to manage someone else's emotions while trying to protect their own. Many people know what it feels like to smile in public while privately struggling. That is why this story continues to connect with people. It may look like celebrity drama on the surface, but emotionally, it is much more relatable than that. Was Sharon Osbourne the villain? Of course, this is where opinions become divided. Some people look at everything that happened and believe Sharon Osbourne was clearly in the wrong. They point to her behavior during the on-air confrontation, the allegations that surfaced afterward, and Sheryl's own description of the emotional damage the experience caused. From that point of view, Sharon appears to be someone whose actions created harm and contributed to a toxic environment. But others believe the situation was more complicated. Some argue that Sharon was under intense pressure, emotionally overwhelmed, and reacting badly in a public situation that spiraled out of control. Some believe the format of live television made the conversation even more volatile. And some think the network itself should take more responsibility for how the discussion was handled. That is what makes this story so complicated. It is not a simple hero versus villain situation. There were emotions, public pressure, racial tension, workplace dynamics, and behind-the-scenes issues that most viewers may never fully understand. But what does seem clear is that Sheryl Underwood was deeply affected, and that truth deserves to be taken seriously. Sheryl seems focused on healing. One of the most meaningful parts of Sheryl Underwood's recent reflections is that she does not seem focused on revenge. She seems focused on healing. That matters. In today's media culture, people often expect a dramatic takedown. They expect someone to come out swinging, expose everything, and make the story even messy. But Sheryl's tone feels different. Yes, she is being honest. Yes, she is acknowledging pain. Yes, she is revealing that the experience was more damaging than many people realized. But she also seems to be speaking from a place of trying to process what happened rather than simply reigniting the feud. That gives her words even more weight. Sometimes healing is not loud. Sometimes healing looks like finally admitting something hurt you. Sometimes healing looks like saying you almost walked away. Sometimes healing looks like telling the truth after years of trying to move on. That may be exactly what Sheryl is doing right now. Will they ever reconcile? The big question many fans still have is whether Sheryl Underwood and Sharon Osbourne will ever truly reconcile. At this point, it is hard to say. The fallout was major. The emotions were intense. The headlines were brutal. And based on Sheryl's recent comments, the wounds still seem very real. That does not mean reconciliation is impossible. People can change. Time can soften some conflicts. Private conversations can happen that the public never sees. But before any real reconciliation could happen, there would likely need to be healing, accountability, understanding, and emotional safety. Without those things, it is difficult to imagine a real resolution. Right now, it seems like Sheryl's focus is not on repairing the relationship in public. It is on processing what happened and continuing her own healing journey. And honestly, that may be exactly where the focus belongs. Final thoughts: if there is one major takeaway from all of this, it is that the feud between Sheryl Underwood and Sharon Osbourne was far more complicated than fans originally thought. What many people saw as one explosive television moment may have actually been the public breaking point of a much deeper and more painful situation. According to Sheryl Underwood's recent comments, she was dealing with emotional distress, isolation, and a work environment that may have felt deeply uncomfortable and harmful. She says she considered quitting. She says the experience still affects her. She says healing has not been simple. And that changes everything. It reminds us that not every headline tells the full story. Sometimes the real damage is not what happens in front of the cameras. Sometimes the real damage is what lingers after the cameras stop rolling. Whether you believe Sharon Osbourne was fully in the wrong, whether you think both women were trapped in a difficult live TV moment, or whether you feel the network played a bigger role than fans realize, one thing is clear: Sheryl Underwood's voice matters. And right now, people are listening. This feud may never be fully resolved in the public eye, but Sheryl's recent comments are helping fans see the story in a new way, not just as celebrity drama, but as a story about pain, resilience, emotional survival, and the long road to healing. And maybe that is the real truth people were waiting to hear. Outro. So what do you think about the Sheryl Underwood and Sharon Osbourne feud? Do you think Sheryl was right to speak out now? Do you believe Sharon was misunderstood? Or do you think Sheryl has every reason to still feel hurt by what happened? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more celebrity news, entertainment drama, and the latest Hollywood updates, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. Because this tea is definitely not forgotten. Thanks for the watching and subscribe.